Alright, hello, what is up everyone? This is Mike Deiure, and welcome to Tivamo and the lesson that we're going to be doing today. So as always, everybody, what's up? We got a bunch of people kind of piling in and getting online. In the meantime, let me know if you guys can hear me okay, everything looks and sounds okay. And we'll get started with all the content and fun stuff in just a second. But in the meantime, let me know if you could see me and hear me and all that fun stuff. And I could see what you guys are typing there. So give a chat or type in the chat box there. Let me know if everything's looking good. In the meantime, while people are kind of signing in, I'm just going to jam along for a couple seconds and a minute or two, and then we'll dive in. We already got some good questions, so first come, first serve with the questions. So whatever you guys have questions about and want me to cover, start typing them in, and we'll make sure we cover it. So let me go ahead and jam for a minute while people get logged in, and then we'll get started. So let's see, let's stop this. All right, cool. What's up, everyone? Again, Mike Deiure. Welcome to Tivamo and the lesson that we're going to be doing today. So let's see. The same question Olivia's. All right, good. So we got questions coming in. I love it. Guys, again, if someone type in, let me know that you guys could hear and see me okay. I want to make sure that, that everything's working. Keep stopping and buffering or something. Interesting. Okay, good. Yeah, Olivia, let me know. Let me know if anybody else is seeing the same problem with the video kind of buffering or whatever. And we'll see if we can get that kind of trouble shot as we get going. And let's take a look. All right, so anyways, the first, so one of the first questions came in from Cheryl. And I have some topics I'll cover later if there's time. But again, this is all about you guys and what you want me to help you with. So let's dive in. One of the first questions Cheryl was asking about was how to find the chord relations. Now, again, the question I had as a clarifier is in relation to what? If as far as a song you're working on, as far as a scale, or a certain key signature. So Cheryl replied, meaning if the scale is C, so another C major scale, dominant is F, and subdominant is G. How to find that? Gonna need a little more information, Cheryl, because we want to look at a couple things. So if the scale is C, all right, that's taken for granted that we're in the key of C major. Okay, so C major. Now, if you're in C major is the tonic. F would actually be the subdominant as the 4 chord, and then G would be the 5 chord, which would be your dominant. So, oops, I'm a little out of tune. So, let's see if you can give me a little more insight as far as what you mean by the chord relation, but I can expand upon that just given the information that we have. In other words, let's say we're in the key of C major, all right? And this is really important to know too, both from a songwriting standpoint, from a jamming perspective, and it also helps you understand what chords can be used to kind of maybe write a song or just in sequence to sound good. A lot of this stems from a concept called harmonic structure. So that is how we know what chords go with what key signatures and what we can use. So let me just see if she's okay. Cool. Looks like everyone buffering is for me too. Interesting. Self out. Okay. Well, if it gets worse, guys, let me know. I want to make sure that the video kind of craps out, that we know about it. So hopefully it'll let me know if the audio at least stays so that you could hear me. So back to chords. So if we're in the key of C major, obviously there's, well, maybe not obvious, there's 7 notes in any key signature, okay? And we could build chords on every degree of that scale, all right? So if we're in the key of C major, the main formula that you want to know is that the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord are all major chords, all right? And then the 2, 3, 6 chords are minor, and then the 7th chord is what we call diminished. Now, to make this a little simple, because I don't want to get too into crazy theory stuff to kind of confuse everybody, but let's take C major. The first thing you want to do is ask yourself, what are the notes of C major? In other words, the notes in the scale. So we got C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So those are the root notes of the key signature. Those are the notes that are in the scale. So now what we want to do is figure out how to build chords on each of those, and we want to ask ourselves, do we want to make it a major chord or a minor chord? All right? So again, the 1 chord, 4 chord, and 5 chord are major. So in this case, 1, 4, and 5 is C, F, and G. So C, F, G, and then back to C. All right? So those are the actual chords that go along with that key signature. Now the rest, or all of them except for the 7th, would be minor. So D and E would be both minor chords. So let's play C major, D minor, E minor, then F major, then G major. All right, so if we take those 5, now we've put a type of chord to 5 notes in the key signature. All right, and Cheryl, let me know if this is helping and if any of you other guys needs clarification on this. So we have the 5 chords, C major, then we have D minor, then we have E minor, then we have F major, then we have G major. Now the 6th chord, like we said, is a minor chord. So when we get to A, we will want to play A minor. All right, so C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and then B would actually be diminished. And in this case, I'm going to play what's called a minor 7 flat 5. Oops. And then back to C. All right. So that is how what we call harmonizing the major scale. And again, Cheryl, let me know if this is helping. I want to make sure this is kind of in relation to, you know, what you are asking and what you're working on. But the main concept is to know what type of chord to play on every degree of the scale. All right. So the reason this helps you out is a bunch of reasons. Let's take for a songwriting example. If I'm writing a song and I want to look for other places I could take my song, let's say I have 2 chords that sound really cool together. Okay, let's say C major and then A minor. And I got a little groove happening, but I don't know where else I can go. I've found out that these 2 chords sound really good together, but now I need to ask myself, where else can I go? So if you chart this out, it'll help you know what chords will sound good against each other, all right? So again, since we start talking about theory here, you know, people can kind of think of right and wrong. People don't like right and wrong when it comes to music. The main thing I like to say is that if you follow these guidelines, they'll help make everything work and gel well together. So by following your harmonic structure and by following the type of chord that naturally happens in the key signature, it'll keep the relationship so that everything sounds like it's working. Again, let me know if that's helping you. It's really fun stuff to study, and especially if you get into learning, you know, songwriting and studying songs. The Beatles are obviously a great an example to do this with because they're such prolific songwriters. But if you find and study their chords, you'll see that more often than not, they're using harmonic structure. In other words, he's on the 2 chord right now, he made the 2 chord minor. Why? Because it sounds good. It's what naturally happens in the key signature. So these are some, good theory concepts that I love knowing and working with. They can be a little bit, sometimes they can go over people's heads, but it depends on the situation you're working on. But it's super fun and interesting to know because the other thing that happens is, let's take a jamming situation. If you're working with a band or musicians, or let's say you just got put on stage for a jam, people are always going to communicate what the key signature is, or the scale that the song or jam is built from. That's always square one. From there, you should know what chords can be played along with it that work good. In other words, let's go in the key of A major. And let me just keep in touch over here. All right, cool, we got some new stuff. All right, and I'll come right back to Lockapill. Sorry if I totally murdered your name there, but I'll come back to your question in a second. So let's say I'm in a jamming situation. Someone said, hey, we're going to jam in A major. So he sets a groove just not this one. A lot of times what happens is people will just put their hand up and talk about what chord they're moving to, all right? So in other words, I'm jamming on my 1 chord in A major, which is A. And someone might put up, 4. So I need to know that he's moving to the 4 chord, which in this case would be the note D, or the chord D. But I need to know what type of chord to make it, all right? And in this case, because we're in A major, the 4 chord would be also major. So these are the concepts that are really helpful to know, and you can see how they can be applied. I don't want to go too deep, and I want to make sure that answered the question. So, Cheryl, if you have any other questions about that, let me know, and hopefully that helped you out. Or if anybody else there wants to kind of dive into that concept further, we could talk about it some more. So, let's see. Lockpill mentioned, I noticed you slide your hand down the fretboard to go from 1 chord to another for the same shape. Seems barring with index finger. Yes. I have been working on barring, but the finger conditioning is slowly improving. What would you recommend for conditioning? How much duration, etc.? Great question. And we've been talking a lot about bar chords in these lessons, which helps because again, they're so widely used and useful, but they are one of the things that people kind of struggle with, to get good and to make easy, because they're not necessarily easy. So one of the things that, as you could tell, like you mentioned, I am using this shape just to kind of move around, and my first finger is predominantly always in the same place. It is barring, it's laying flat, and it's pushing, a lot of the same strings down. Now, this is a good habit that you want to get in the hang of doing, and it's a hard habit to develop, because if you learn this wrong or your technique was kind of off, Capo, oh yeah, okay buddy, how you doing? Sorry, I remember you from the last lessons. So, if this isn't a good habit that you developed, let's say you've practiced like this a lot, where my thumb comes up high, my first finger curves a lot at all the joints, and I'm trying to make it work. That's not going to work. One thing I recommended to somebody that asked a question via email was that they're having similar issues with getting that first finger to stay straight. They had a lot of bad habits for a while, and they were saying that they're seeing a little bit of progress, but not a lot. So one thing that might seem weird but actually could work, I've never actually done this, but I think it'd probably be worth trying. Taping a pencil to your finger, okay? So in other words, I want this finger to stay straight like this. I even actually want a little bit of curve so that this back knuckle comes up. But if I keep a very straight object attached to my first finger, it's going to prohibit from kind of, moving down like this. So if you literally take a pencil, tape it around just, one piece, maybe way back far, so that the tape doesn't really get too much in the way of the strings. The idea is to practice just moving around and keeping that finger that straight. The other thing too is bringing your wrist out. All right, a lot of people tend to bring their wrist in towards them, and when you do that, It's going to make everything get lazy and get bad technique, so it's not going to help you. You got to keep in mind about pushing that wrist out, and when we do that, we're keeping a lot of muscles tense. So you got to kind of relax as much as you can, but understand that this position does keep things tense. So you're going to feel a little bit of strain, and that's normal and that's okay. All right, so one thing you could try, again, try taping a pencil to your finger just to feel how that kind of keeps it straight. The other thing, make sure your thumb is right in line with your first finger. You know, sometimes people, you know, their thumb will be like way over here, or it'll be way over here. When I have my fingers on the guitar neck, all right, looking at this angle, you can see that my thumb and my index finger are pretty much right in line with each other. I don't want my thumb like way over here or way over here, okay? You want your thumb to be right in line so that this feels comfortable, and then also so that the two fingers can push together to press down the strings in the fretboard. Okay, so let me know, Capo, if that helps out. But yes, bar chords are super, super helpful. They're used so much because of how mobile they are. Again, they're movable shapes, so they make everything easy once you get good at them, all right? So that's, you know, one big tip I would say is think about your finger on the bottom. Think about extending it so that this skin becomes tight. Think about the bones kind of sticking out a bit. That's what's going to help push those strings down, all right? And the other thing, too, is doing a lot of exercises of picking one string at a time. Because if I'm always kind of doing that, you know, it's not always easy to hear every string. But what happens is, if I'm always going through one string at a time, I could hear it a little bit better. All right? So a lot of practicing, if you're doing a song, don't feel like you always need to play the chord progression just like the song. Take the chord progression, and instead of playing the chords, let's play one string at a time. See what I mean? Okay. Let's see. You got it, buddy. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. If you don't want to tape it, bet you can use a little hairband. I use them when I'm trying to keep my pinky finger attached to my third finger. Very cool. Yeah, interesting idea. And again, never thought of it. The big thing too, though, make sure you don't use anything that's going to be too bulky. Because remember, you know, a piece of tape will be right up against your skin and flat. You don't want anything that's going to protrude because it's going to press the strings down. So whatever you do, just make sure that it's not going to add too much, you know, skin or depth to the finger. So, but experiment with it. You know, it's one of those quirky things. It's not going to be there forever. It's just until you develop a habit of doing it. And when you do stuff like that, don't do it for more than 5 or 10 minutes. You know, what I would do is maybe if you're going to try that, tape it on, try just playing some simple chords and moving around for 5-10 minutes. Take it off and then just see how it feels. Don't be in the mindset that this is going to work overnight. All right, this is one of those 30 to 60 day type of things where if you are practicing that every day, you know, it should help you guys, you know, establish that good habit. And be patient, because good habits, if you're learning from scratch, take a long time. If you're trying to relearn bad habits, they take probably 5 times as long, you know, to really ingrain it to where when you don't think, the good habit just happens. All right, so be in that mindset, be patient with it, but also make notes of how you see yourself progressing. If you're struggling with something, and then all of a sudden, you know, after 2 weeks of practice, you notice a slight change, that something's happening, something's becoming easier. Make a note of that. That's a really good achievement that you should acknowledge that you are seeing progress, all right? So hopefully that helps. All right, Olivia. Sometimes I see some people using their middle to press the first finger down when playing bar chords. Is that a good or bad habit to be in? Great question, and I was actually going to address that, because if you notice, for certain type of chords, let's say I play a minor bar chord based on the big E string, okay? A lot of times I'll take my middle finger and rest it on the first finger. All right, and I don't think that's a bad habit personally. It's going to help kind of get that middle finger out of the way, because a lot of times people just let it hang or loosen up, and then it hits, you know, the big string like this. If you rest it here, it's muting the big string where you don't want it. So a lot of times it's a good way to kind of think about really extending everything, because that's a lot of the motion that your fingers need to make. So I'm going to think about extending it. It helps push it down flat, and then I'm kind of good to go. All right, so I don't think it's a bad thing. It's not useful for all type of chords. In fact, the minor chord or power chord are the only two that really would use it well, because most other times, you know, I'm using my middle finger, or it's just really not accessible to be used in that way. But, you know, definitely I think that's a good thing. I don't think it'll hurt you at all if you do that. So, all right, if I can get bar chords in 60 days, I would be one happy camper. No problem. You can do it. Again, it's consistency. And let me see what Capel said here. When I use 3 fingers to play a chord, one of the fingers is too far from the fret and requires more pressure to keep the string from buzzing. Let's see. You said one of the fingers is too far. What finger is it, Capel? When you say one of the fingers is too far from the fret and it requires more pressure. First, I would say what finger it is. But it's a very good point, too, because the other thing that people find that happens when they're doing bar chords is that, let's say you're working on these 3 fingers. Let's do a major bar chord. So my first finger's on the 5th fret of the E string. These 2 fingers are on the 7th fret of the A and D. And then my middle finger goes down on the 6th fret of the G string, okay? So, a lot of times what happens is I'll be thinking really hard about pushing maybe with my first finger and my ring finger and my pinky. My middle finger is there, but it's not really there. And when I think about it and push harder, now the note's good. What tends to happen, though, is you'll loosen up the pressure with other fingers, all right? Very, very common thing. You're not alone. Don't think that you are. But the other thing to think about is, again, a lot of these exercises where I arpeggiate the chord, I play 1 string at a time. See what I mean? So when that's the case, I can hear each one, and I want to think about that position and just hold it, okay? Let's see, the on D string, index finger. Gotcha. So yeah, in this case, I'm assuming, let's see, index. Well, it depends on what chord there. If you're on the D string, your index really isn't doing much for bar chords. Remember, in that case, it's probably your pinky that needs to do the work. Another thing that you could practice, though, is sustain. Now, what I want to do is hit 1 string at a time. And if you notice what I did, I individually stopped every string from ringing. So watch, I'll do it again. All right, what you're listening for, and let me know if you guys could hear that. What I'm doing is making sure that every string is ringing out, and I can definitely tell that's happening because every time I stop a string, it sounds like one more piece of the chord is not there anymore. All right, let's try it backwards. All right, so that's a really fun little exercise, and it's just something to help keep your mind thinking about pushing hard with everything, okay? So there's another exercise you could do, and again, don't be surprised after a little while your hand might get a little sore. It's perfectly normal. Just let it rest if it does. Remember, sharp pain is the bad kind of pain. If you feel sharp, quick pain, then stop, relax, stretch your hands out, do something else for a bit. If your hand just feels sore, that's normal. Again, you're developing new muscles. So be in the mindset that's going to happen. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's see, or the middle finger depending on the 3 frets. I use A on fret 2. Oh, gotcha. So in other words, Capel, you're talking about the open A chord on the 2nd fret, strings 2, 3, and 4. So yeah, same thing. If you're doing this shape here, which is your typical A major open chord, you know, a lot of it is just thinking about every finger and pushing hard. The same exercise can be used, though, where I hit every string and then mute each one, okay? If I find that I do that and I do something like, Okay, so my G string was not pushed down well. So it's these slow little methodical exercises that'll help you get better. And again, it's one of those things that develops nice and, not nice and slow, but slowly. You know, it's one of those things that develops slowly, so be patient when you're working on that type of thing. All right, so let's see, Olivia, talking about the A chord, when I play the A add 6, it gets too crowded and my fingers spill over the frets. Gotcha. Yeah, I guess what actual A add 6, there's a bunch of different shapes you could probably use for that, but, you know, very common, you know, let's say do something where it's like an A minor 7 bar chord, or a major 7. You know, there's some shapes that really get tight, okay? And when that's the case, you got to look to try to utilize more of the room in between the frets, all right? Now, usually you want to keep your fingers towards the front of the fret. That's where you get the best tone. It's where you get the least amount of buzz, and it's where the best quality note will come from. But if things are too cramped because of your chord shape, then try to just move stuff around. You know, a lot of guitars don't have a lot of room, and sometimes if you have bigger fingers, it's a little bit tricky. But a lot of it's just trial and error. A lot of times there's usually no big magical secret. It's just a lot of kind of experimentation. So hopefully that helps there. Let's see, Capital, your A shape is different than the one I've been practicing, which is barring 3 strings on fret 2. Okay, gotcha. So I'm guessing you might use your first finger like this and open first string. So that's one other way to do it. This is a really tricky one. Usually, and let me know, Capital, if this is the shape that you're talking about. So I'm assuming this is the one you're talking about. If this is it, one of the things that I would recommend if you're doing this bar chord shape, don't worry about getting the little string open. Okay, because it becomes very hard and will get very frustrating to get that perfect. Because here's the thing, the little string open is the note E. Okay, when I do this shape, I'm playing A, E, A, C sharp, and then E if I want to get that. But the point is, I'm already playing the note E on the 2nd fret of the D string, right there. So having another E at the top is only an added little bonus, all right? So if I don't have that, I still have an A major chord. So if you're going to use the bar shape, I wouldn't worry about having that little string ring out. I would actually focus on muting it, okay? Which shouldn't be too hard because the finger naturally is going to slope up like this. And that little slope is most likely going to touch the string rather than push it down, which will mute it, all right? Hopefully that helps. Video froze, back again. Thanks, though. All right, looks like we got some video problems, not sure. But we'll just kind of keep moving with it. Sorry, guys, if that does happen. You know, try to just kind of work with it, and we'll do the best we can. So, cool. So hopefully that helps, you know, with some bar chord, you know, things there and some technique tips, you know. Let me know what other questions you guys have. Keep them coming. I love the questions, and certainly helpful, you know, to kind of know what you guys are struggling with and want more help with. So keep them coming. Let me know if there's anything new or different questions, if that helps, if I've covered everything that you guys want there. I have some other techniques and topics I was going to talk about today, so I'm going to jump into that. If you have questions, again, type them in, and I'll kind of switch gears and go back to helping you guys with what you're working on. So one of the things I was going to talk a little bit about today, which is a lot of fun to work on, at least I think so, is melodies and how to create memory lines that are memorable. In other words, when you go to start jamming and soloing, it's kind of, a lot of people when they first get into it have no idea. Like, I'll ask the student, go ahead and jam for me, and they get this blank stare. They're like, what do I do? You know, and I'll tell them, just start by going up and down a scale. All right, don't even think about actually putting something cohesive together. Just kind of make noise, but experiment with the notes that work in the key and just hear how those notes work well. So the next what's the word I want? The next phase of growing on top of that is starting to create soloing and melody ideas that sound good and that are attractive. The best thing I could use to kind of give advice on that is to say use themes. Use very simple ideas, but a repetitive theme that you can keep doing. In other words, let's take this into action. So I have a backing track from Rock Guitar Power. So those of you who don't know, is it possible to make a donation using PayPal? Good question, Kate. Yeah, just so you know, there's the option to donate. All the donations today go to VH1 Save the Music. And I'm, to be honest, not sure on if it's a PayPal. I believe it's Stripe is the payment method. So you might have to get the credit card out and use it. But so yeah, any donations, super, super appreciated. They go to helping VH1 Save the Music, which helps keep music programs going on in schools. So anyways, so back to the melody thing. So rockguitarpower.com is one of my sites that has a lot of guitar lessons online, and there's a section called the Guitar Pro Jam. One of the sections, or one of the pro jams, is called Blues in A Jam. So if I look at that one, it's just a standard 12-bar blues in the key of A, and I'm going to jam along to a backing track for that jam. And so what we're going to do is just let the track play, and I'm just going to play up and down the pentatonic scale and maybe add the blues scale in, just to hear how the notes really gel well. So let's check this out. So again, nice and simple. Now, the next thing that we want to start doing is, after we just let the jam go and just keep playing on it, listen for little melody ideas that you could repeat that are little themes that sound good. So in other words, it could be something as simple as 4 notes. One and two, and. So in other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, just 4 notes. Okay, so that's a little theme. Let's hear how something like that sounds against our backing track. Very simple, and you might even be thinking maybe a little bit boring. But the idea is that if you repeat it and you put a little bit of rhythm groove to it, or just something that's repetitive, you're making a statement saying, this is what I wanted to say. And people will grab onto that. If you kind of randomly just play notes and don't repeat anything that sounds like someone can hum back or sing back, then you're not going to create something memorable. But if I find a small phrase, then repeating it becomes easy, and that is what lets people know this is what I mean to play, and it's very easy for people to hum back that da-da-da-dum. Alright, so the first part is finding a lick or phrase that you could repeat. The next thing to move on from that is creating variations. Repeat the phrase, but with a slight variation. And again, this is where it's going to say, this is what I mean to say, but here's a little bit more to it, all right? Let's hear it in action. So we got our first lick. Let's add. All right, so the second one is going to do a little bend. So I'm going 5, 7, bend and 7 on the G string, kind of a bend up and down, and then go to the 5th fret on the G string. All right, so now let's hear that over our backing track. kind of feeling it out, keeping it simple, but I'm playing with the same themes and doing little variations. And this is what's starting to create something memorable that people can latch onto. So again, when you start talking about lead playing and soloing, things can get complex very quickly. And if you're just starting with it, try not to be overwhelmed. But the idea, a good goal of setting out to just jam is to find a lick, a melody, a phrase that's repetitive, that you think sounds cool. Start with that and get used to kind of repeating it, all right? And add little variations, whether it's a bend, whether it's vibrato, whether it's a pull off to another note, just something that repeats but has little slight variations, and you'll start finding that that's what really will make a cool, memorable melody or solo. And if you study, like vocal lines, a lot of times when people think about lyrics and singers, they're not always thinking about the fact that they're singing notes. They're singing melodies. If you look at the melodies of songs, of the lyrical, lines of songs, they're always, or more often than not, very simple, and they're very repetitive. You might not notice it, but that's the thing that makes things catchy. Like pop tunes are catchy because they're easy to sing along to. And if you think about the melody of a pop tune, it's repetitive and it's easy and it's memorable, all right? Think about those elements when you go to write guitar parts, because even though flashy's cool and it can be fun to play fast and all this wild stuff, if you really want to create something that really people latch onto, it's simple ideas that have slight variations. So there's a little concept for you. Hopefully that helps. Let's see if we have more questions here. So Olivia, what would be the possibility of you doing weekly lessons this summer? I wanted to take a job in Boston for 6 weeks, but I don't really want to go 6 weeks without my music teacher. I would be way more likely if you go with you. We're planning on doing this weekly come summertime. Nice. So yeah, summer is always kind of a weird time of year. I'm not sure if I'm not planning on doing live lessons like this every week. If you are interested, reach out to me personally. We might be able to set something up on Tivamo for live one-on-one lessons, which might be a possibility. But the best thing to do is contact me. You can go to rockguitarpower.com and there's a contact form. I get all those emails. Or mike@rockguitarpower.com is the best place to get me by email, and I answer all my emails. So shoot me an email, let me know you're interested, and we can kind of work something out. Obviously, I try to give, and it's the best thing to do is just be active in these sessions. But one-on-one is always the best if you're really looking to kind of work out of your own issues or things that you're struggling with. It's a lot easier to get one-on-one time. Virtually like this is becoming, like with Tivamo, it's becoming a lot easier, so it's great. So yeah, send me an email and we'll work something out and see if we could do something. Summertime things get a lot more relaxed. I might do something bi-weekly, but reach out to me there and we'll see if we could work something out. I love the interest though. Capo, Mike, that sounded so awesome. Is it possible to get tablature? It would be helpful to progress forward with your sessions. Awesome. I'll tab that out. If you look, I do actually do review, or I should say, I always do replays of these. Let me get the link and I'm going to paste it in there. On Rock Guitar Power, there is, let's see, copy link location. Let me see if this will work. We're going to put this into the chat box. There we go. Oops. All right. Olivia, definitely something to kind of contact me on. I don't have a preset time because, to be honest, I really don't do much live teaching one-on-one. I do have 2 days locally if you're in Rochester, New York. Those are out of guitar studios. Other than that, I don't take on students privately, but because this is a new medium, we're kind of testing and working out. We'll have to figure that out, but we could kind of talk about that on the side. If you're interested, email me and we'll get some communication open about it. So anyways, I sent that link out there. That's where I personally have replays of all these lessons on my website there. Tivamo is also working on doing replays as well. But on the replay page, I do include tabs for anything that's relative to what I'm doing. So Capel, that would be a place to go check out to see all the replays of these, review them, and get some tabs that are more specific to the things that we're working on. And again, there's a very simple idea there, and things can get way more advanced quickly. But if that idea is cool to you, Capel, and you got a lot out of that, check out 2 things. On rockguitarpower.com, the Pro Jam is definitely the program to dive into. The idea behind the Pro Jam is creating a groove and I teach you that groove, and then I talk about how to solo over the groove. And I teach at least 3 to 5 really cool licks that work good over the groove, okay? Then I'll also show you how to take the ideas and just take and build your own ideas. But the Pro Jam is one of the parts of Rock Guitar Power that really goes in depth in what I'm talking about right now. The other thing to check out, if you go to superguitarlicks.com, it's my other Learn to Play Guitar site. I have what are called quick licks. If you go to the blog, there's a tab on Super Guitar Licks, and it's called the blog. You'll see lessons that are called quick licks, and they're exactly what they say. They teach one quick little lick idea that actually a lot of those are based off of what I do in the Pro Jam. But it's going to teach you one little specific lick that most of them are pretty challenging but fun. So again, one of the things that I really believe in is creating a place for people to kind of continually learn. So these live one-on-one sessions I love, and hopefully it's looking like you guys are liking them too. But the other thing too is what you want to work on when we're not doing live stuff. Those are what my guitar sites are for. So make sure you make use of those, dive into them and check them out, because there's so much good content to kind of keep the conversation going there. Let's see. What day is New York? What days in New York? Boston's not that far. I would only be working 2 days. It would be so helpful to have a live lesson with you. Nice. Again, just reach out to me. Mondays and Wednesdays are usually the days I teach, but the schedule always kind of changes, Olivia. So it's about 6 hours away. So it is. I think it's 6 hours, but I don't know. Send me an email. We'll work something out, whether it's in person or using Tvamo live one-on-one, which is the other thing that we could do one-on-one on Tvamo is live video for both of us. Right now, obviously, you're seeing me live, but they also do have the ability to do live for you as well, which would obviously be necessary to kind of really see technique and other things. So right now, it's kind of one-sided, but hopefully this helps. So. All right, so we got about a little less than 20 minutes left. Let me know what other big questions you guys have. I'd love to cover maybe one totally different topic. If any of you guys online have something else you're struggling with or want to know more about or would like me to show you, let me know, and I could kind of dive into whatever. I also have a really new cool song I want to play for you guys that I've been working on for a while that is now just getting to the point where 6 hours is nothing. You're a trooper. You should be on the road touring then. 6 hours is a long time in my book for a drive, but I guess it depends on what you're going for and how long you're planning on staying. So, cool. But yeah, like I said, we'll work something out. If you're interested, send me an email, and we'll figure it out from there. So, bring on some other questions, guys. What else do you guys want to know about? Tell you what, in the meantime, while some other questions come in, let me switch to my acoustic, and I'll play you a new tune that I just finished learning. All right. All right. Let me know if you guys could hear this. Okay. Very good. All right, so I'm going to play a new tune that I just finished learning. This is my Taylor. One of the things that I love most recently is studying what's called fingerstyle. Usually use a thumb pick and use your fingers to play on a steel string acoustic. So I found a version of Stevie Wonder's Superstition. There was a guy named Adam Rafferty, I believe his name is, who put together this absolutely incredible version of the song that I'm going to play for you now. I just finished learning it. It's kind of fun. I could talk about some of the techniques, so if you guys have some more questions, type them in. But in the meantime, check out this. This is Stevie Wonder's Superstition. Stevie Wonder, Superstition. So let's see if you guys had some more questions. Awesome, glad you liked that. Coco, back to bar chords. Love it. All right, so let's see. I have bone on bone, thumb to hand. So to do bar chords, I need to lay my thumb sideways, and that doesn't always work. Any suggestions? And let me see a couple other things. Developing, talking by ear. Learn a new take on a song that I already love. No problem. All right, so Coco, how are you, by the way? So let's see. Back to bar chords. I have bone on bone, thumb to hand. So to do bar chords, I need to lay my thumb sideways. Gotcha. I have bone on bone, thumb to hand. So a lot of times, you know, let's see. I'm guessing that. Am I right in saying that if, you know, with my thumb straight up, you're turning your thumb to the side to kind of lay into the fretboard? Is that right? Let me know if that is correct. Cool, there you go, Capo. I love it. Help each other. That's the beautiful thing about a community like this. So you lay my thumb sideways. Yeah, laying your thumb, you know, sideways in general. Well, I guess sideways, do you mean pointing this way or pointing to the ceiling? A lot of times, if you're talking about sideways, it is very, very common for people to put their thumb and face it towards the guitar neck, okay? That I don't recommend, but it is very, very popular. People kind of do that as they're trying to work things out, you know, they're trying to just move their hand in any way to get there and make things happen. And that is one of the things that does happen a lot. So you're, okay, yeah, correct. So yeah, that does happen a lot. What I would recommend, and again, it's one of those habit things. You don't want it that way. Think about facing the ceiling. And that, like Capo said, think about pushing your wrist out, okay? If you think about pushing your wrist out away from you, that's going to prevent your thumb, because it doesn't really work. Your thumb goes to this way because your wrist is pulling, you want to pull your wrist closer to you. All right, and that's not going to help, because if you look at my hand here, when I pull my thumb to the sideways and my wrist towards me, all my fingers come back and I can't move them well. If I push my wrist out away from me and put my thumb towards the ceiling, my fingers can now move all over the place. All right, so if this is a habit that you have, think about always being able to fit a pencil, at least a pencil's width, between your palm and the fretboard here. All right, that'll keep your wrist out so that you can actually get in the position where this happens. And if you're thinking about, you know, your thumb just kind of going over, keep it simple. Don't try to play a song that you're working on and think about implementing these techniques. If you're struggling with this, then you got to break down and get rid of as many factors as possible. And one of them is usually like you're doing too many things. So in other words, go back to just taking one chord, or maybe two chords, and just moving back and forth. But thinking only about that technique where I want my thumb towards the ceiling and push my wrist out. Okay? Slowly work on that. And again, don't be in the mindset that it's going to happen right away. If your thumb is used to doing this, you know, you're going to be struggling when you go to do this. It's going to feel totally different. You got to practice it enough so that it feels normal and that this becomes the one that feels very awkward. Okay? Let's see. Otherwise, there's too much pain. Gotcha. I'll talk about that in a second, Olivia. So, yeah, pain is another factor, too, we got to worry about. And everyone's situation is different, okay? That's something where, you know, live one-on-one or just knowing more about your physical limitations or situations would help me, because, again, certain things aren't right for everybody. However, all things being equal, usually they're not, but all things being equal, you know, this playing with correct technique should not be painful. If it is, you know, there's another situation that could be going wrong. And it might be painful just because it's something new and you might need to work into it. Again, I can't really say just to jump into this and do only this, because if it's causing pain, there might be other issues going on. The things I will say is stretch, okay? Take your hand, push it out like this, take your other hand, pull your fingers back towards you, and just hold this for 10 seconds. all right? Let it go, turn your arm around, and pull your fingers this way so that I feel this back here really pulling. Don't pull hard, just pull enough to really feel that being effective in stretching, okay? Pull that, hold it for a bit, another 10 seconds, and then relax. Make a fist and pull the fist down towards you. These are 3 exercises which will kind of stretch and loosen everything up in your fingers here. The other thing you should do is do a lot of slow scale exercises. You know, scales are a great way of training those fingers because, again, you're only moving one finger at a time usually. When you do a bar chord, you're really focusing on pressing a lot down and using a lot at once, which sometimes can be too much. Or simplify the bar chord. Just do a power chord, all right? Let's say I'm just doing my thumb and ring index or ring finger and pinky. All right, so we got just... So now I'm not worried about really barring, I'm not worried about my middle finger. Take this first and try thinking about this thumb exercise of keeping it towards the ceiling, pushing your wrist out, okay? The more fingers you add, the more complexity you add, the more pain you might feel, the more, you know, things can start getting to be very, you know, very cumbersome or very hard and hurt. So just some things to kind of think about. Let's see, I'm trying to put pressure on the index finger. Good, Keppel. Yeah, it's something that just takes time. You know, be patient with it. So, Coco, I'm trying to put pressure on the index finger. Yeah, so that is something, again, that, and the other thing is that you need pressure. As you get stronger, you don't feel like you're doing as much, and it gets easier. But the other thing, too, is technique. If you're putting pressure in your fingers like this, you're going to need way, way, way more pressure, and it's going to hurt. If I extend it, okay, and put my effort into extending the finger, I don't need as much pressure because now my skin's tighter and it's easier to push in. So make sure that when you are pushing, that when you look at your index finger, it's straight. All your knuckles are kind of straight. If you bend like this, if you see this back knuckle pull back towards you, and then you think about pushing hard, you're never going to get there and you're going to hurt yourself because your skin is too loose and your finger's in the wrong position. So before you start thinking about pressure, make sure you think about the shape of your finger. You want it flat, you want it like that, you know. So if you can almost do like the little shadow puppet, you know. If you think about kind of this shape here, my finger's straight and my thumb is kind of just like this. That's a really good exercise to think about that'll hopefully help you out there. All right, so Olivia Shield, you were talking about the slap percussive sound. So this is really cool, and this is one of the reasons that I love studying this song, because I heard this arrangement of it, and it was a brand new technique. I love learning new techniques. So what's happening is that it's kind of a slap sound. It's supposed to mimic the sound of a snare, okay? The snare drum in just about any groove happens on 2 and 4. And in this song, you know, it's definitely, you know, right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, kick, snare, kick, snare. So this sound is basically I'm using a thumb pick first of all, and it's kind of a light slap where it's a diagonal motion where the string kind of hits the fretboard. It's not if I go straight down into it, I'm not going to get it. See that? But if I come at an angle, all right, there's that buzz. And that buzz is actually acting actually acting as the snare. This was a tricky one. This one took me a good 2 weeks of everyday steady practice to get good at. It might look easy. But if you hear it, it's coming in on every 2 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So it's acting as the snare, and because it's got that rattly sound, it works good as a snare. So that's one of the things I love that's about fingerstyle, is that it incorporates so much of the song. It's definitely tricky. All right, don't get me wrong. This is more advanced stuff. I love studying it, but it's not easy. So, you know, you got the element of the snare, which is keeping the drums in motion. You got the melody that he's singing, you know. And then you also have the main groove, the bass line, or actually in this case it'd be the clavinet that Stevie opens with. You know, that's in there as well. So there's three different elements going on. You got the drums, which is your snare. You got the rhythm, which is your piano or clavinet, and then you got the vocal melody. So that's why fingerstyle is super fun, because it's so filled with cool things to listen to. It's difficult because of that, but it's really fun. And this snare thing is actually a very common technique used in fingerstyle. So this is a song that I was really glad to learn that implemented it. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, it is cool. Check out Adam Rafferty. If you go to YouTube and type in Superstition Fingerstyle, I learned a lot of the main thing by, he has a couple lessons on it. He even has a paid DVD that goes super in depth, but he has some starter lessons on this technique and how to learn that song. Again, this arrangement was put together by him, so if you're interested in learning more about it, go to YouTube, type in Adam Rafferty Superstition or just Superstition Fingerstyle. He talks about it and is a great teacher about it, but it's a very cool technique. It takes a long time to learn, but it's super fun when you get it, so hopefully that helps. All right, guys, the moving lyrics for the song. Yeah, no, it's totally, again, it's, you know, the idea behind fingerstyle playing is that you're really kind of pulling as many elements together and combining them with just two hands, you know, and seeing how much of it you can keep intact with the song. So the arrangement is right in line. I mean, I could jam that right along to the recording, and all the elements are there, so it's really fun. So, all right, guys, we got to bounce soon. Hopefully that helped. I'm glad, you know, we had some great questions and great engagement. I love that you guys are being active on there. Again, I just keep posted on Tivamo, and also, if you're not already on my list for my guitar sites, go to superguitarlicks.com and or rockguitarpower.com. You could sign up for free on both of those sites, and once you sign up, you'll be on my email list where I let you know about these type of events, but also keep in tune because Tivamo also sends out information about it. You could also check out Facebook.com/superguitarlicks. That's where I'm kind of the most active in that world and always building new stuff there. So keep in tune for, you know, when the next lessons are. But again, if I'm not able to do another lesson in another week or two, send me questions via email and I could also respond there. There's the link in the chat earlier that you could see the replays of these on my site, and also come back to Tivamo because I know they're trying to get the replays up on our pages there as well. The donations, again, thank you so much. Anybody that donated, it goes to VH1 Save the Music. Any tips go to me, which is always greatly appreciated. So hopefully you guys had fun. Thank you so much, and I'm glad we're kind of making progress. And keep me posted. I love hearing that you guys are making progress, and even if you're struggling, let me know about that too, because there's certain things I could suggest in email. Again, mike@rockguitarpower.com. Best place to reach me there. So, okay, cool. There are about 4 videos. Which one is the best? 4 videos for where, as far as the replay? Yeah, awesome. Definitely reach out, you know, if you guys, I mean, the best thing to do is help each other. That's the thing I really wanted to try to get going more on my guitar sites, is get people helping each other. And you can also do that on the guitar sites, but, you know, you guys, you know, reach out to each other on Facebook, help each other, find people to jam with. Those are really cool things that I love seeing come out of these lessons, that, you know, you guys are finding each other virtually, just like I'm able to work with you guys. But, okay, cool, awesome. You got it, guys. You are so welcome. And are so useful to me. Thanks a lot. You got it, Cheryl. Thanks a lot. All right, guys. Take care. Have fun. Go play some guitar. Go enjoy the rest of the day. And we'll see you guys really soon with a new lesson. Thanks to Tivamo. We'll see you guys soon. Later.